Today, we are not reviewing, but applying the 8 steps from Sly Flourish's Return of the Lazy Dungeon Master to a one-shot from Candlekeep Mysteries, because many of you were excited about the content of this book, and at least one person actually shared this awesome suggestion to really show you how it can be used to save you prep time. And we're really putting this stuff to the test because I'm running this session later today. Like the day that I'm filming this, so it's all for real. But we get to add one more great tool to our arsenal that a lot of you seem to be enjoying, our sponsor, Describe. Describe is a cultivated collection of scenes for places, monsters, spells, and more categories on the way, with new descriptions added all the time. They're easy to search on the fly when your players surprise you, and easy to save during your game prep, saving you time. Join for free through the link below so they know who sent you, or unlock more scenes using the coupon code BOB to save 10% and start your next adventure with Describe. Hi, I'm Bob, and this is where we learn how to have more fun playing D&D together. And this, give you guys a quick look here, is pretty much my prep battle station for today. We have Return of the Lazy Dungeon Master, we have a notebook, and we have Candlekeep Mysteries, of course. But then it's all about our 8 steps, just going through each one of them. I'm going to try to draw it out here on the screen for you, creating one of my patented not really patented, but one of my scatter plots. And from that scatter plot, I will run a fun session today. Mindset is key. So here we are with the lore of LaRue. I mentioned in my Candlekeep Mysteries review that this is certainly one of the adventures that I would run because LaRue played a big part in my first real homebrew campaign. So I'm just going to finish reading through this, taking notes on paper here. I'm going to make sure it does not go beyond 1 page. And then from this page, from our 8 steps, I'm going to create our scatter plot for our session. Let's do this. Cutting in here for a little note, it's important to have a little bit of a skeptical mind whenever you're reading a pre-written adventure. Like, I'm already noticing things that I will definitely want to change here, where the party at one point finds this little hag hut, and the hag, they can sneak up on her. If they do so, she will fight them, but then just plane shift away. Like, she's not really a character. They don't offer a lot else toward the progression of the story or toward what was already revealed by some other NPCs they encounter to be the real enemies here. So I'm already starting to connect some dots in my head of where we need to fill in gaps in this information, maybe even cut out a section like this, unless it can connect to our characters, which is where we're going to start once we finish this part of the prep. Okay, so after something like another 15 minutes of reading Candlekeep Mysteries, I now have a little less than a page. I did that a lot quicker than I actually usually would, I think, feeling a little bit under pressure to make sure I get this done today and to make sure it goes kind of quickly on video. But what I have is the basic framework of the story as written, so now I can post it up here with my 8 steps from Return of the Lazy Dungeon Master, and we're going to whittle out things that don't really need to be part of the story, try to add what we can to make other things worth it and awesome and connected to our characters. Let's do this. Okay, now I expect that you can probably barely read any of that, but here we go. Starting in the middle, remember this is how I like to do my scatter plots, reviewing the characters right away. We have Fortune, Face Seeker. This is a warlock / rogue tiefling played by my fiancée Grace, who, let's see, likes shiny things. She was born into a cult and is now a worshiper of LaRue rather than the archdevil Glacia, and her mom is not very happy about that. And we have Varys, assuming my friend Steven is also going to play his character from that campaign, who is a half-elf? No, I think he's a wood elf, full elf, and he is a fighter. He's an arcane archer, though, so he focuses pretty much exclusively on archery. He's also very ranger-esque, although he's never taken a level in ranger, very good nature skills, and has a real love for animals. So I'm sure they're both going to be drawn into this quest, not only to help LaRue and help the Feywild, but help the creatures that live there. So right away, just picking a pre-written adventure that our characters are going to buy into saves us a lot of work. And we have now reviewed the PCs. Check. creating a strong start is another kind of simple one with this pre-written adventure because it has a pretty nice start in here already. And I'm just going to have them actually scrap Candlekeep, because what I want to do is to pick up where our campaign left off, which ended with a climactic battle in a dragon's lair against an avatar of Malar, who is the anti-LaRue archfey, who's also kind of a villain in this adventure. So they're going to be in this dragon's lair, digging through the hoard, and they find this magical book. But as written, the book, once they read it, text starts to form on the page, and then they are immediately kind of teleported. Well, they do have to make the choice. It says, when you're ready, turn the page. So once they're like, we're going to turn the page, then boom, they're teleported to this demiplane. And I don't know if it's thoroughly explained in this, so for all intents and purposes, I'm just going to say it's the Feywild. So we already have a pretty cool start right there, and then our next scene is where we can really start drawing more out here. We have 3 satyrs who are drunk and kind of stumbling out of some woods toward the party, and they ask them to help them get home, basically, to this place called Polvarth Plateau. That will be one of our fantastic locations as well. You can see how now we're kind of skipping right through a lot of our steps. And they had just run into some swarms of ravens that attacked them or something. So I might swap out these ravens, but right now we'll just put ravens, ? Between our satyrs and Polvarth Plateau as the potential obstacle our characters are going to have to overcome. But on the way, the satyrs tell them, hey, there's been some weird red lightning lately. Wonder what that's about. And, oh, I heard that these dew-light fairies and sprites know more about what's going on with that. So they're kind of seeding what the characters should be investigating in this mystery. I don't know how much of it's really a mystery because they get the information pretty quickly. And then just for the sake of filling out the rest of our information, another scene that's involved is a quote-unquote webbed path. But it's really just giant spiders kind of blocking their way at some point on this journey. And then the other location was about this hag hut. But again, neither of these things really connect too much to our overarching plot of Malar starting to influence this demiplane. What does was actually one random encounter with some berserkers, because these are actually the cultists of Malar. Oh, and there's another one with some wounded wolves who have been wounded by these berserkers but escaped. And all in all, it's not much of a mystery because it's really like, hey, this forest, this plain is being corrupted by the activity of these cultists who are sacrificing animals, and it's at this pool of the eternal spring, which they're going to find out from the dewlights or from this giant tree man at the Polvarth Plateau. Tree ant, I don't know, why am I calling him a tree man? But eventually they make it to the pool of the eternal spring, where they find some more of these berserkers who are just eating bodies that they're like also dumping into the pool. Bodies of animals, mind you, they're not like cannibals, but that would be a cool way to ratchet up the horror if that's what we were aiming for. And then bang, they more or less summon this corrupted avatar of LaRue, which takes the form of this giant unicorn. There's awesome art of it in the book. Ooh, let's put that on screen. And this is sort of our epic battle at the end, which, whether or not the characters really defeat them, it says to end it with LaRue being struck by lightning from the moon and then purified, essentially. So hopefully that happens with the characters kind of defeating this avatar, defeating the cultists, and therefore winning the day. And they earn some cool magic items already. So because we have a pre-written adventure, we already have our scenes outlined. We are just going to have to tweak these. So that's easy. We already have these fantastic locations. We have the Polvarth Plateau, which is a part of the forest that with a central giant, just tremendously, fantastically giant, so kind of leaning into Sly Flourish's tips for creating fantastic locations. Just make it huge, right? And because it's a tree, it also implies that it's super ancient. So this in itself is a great, awesome, fantastic location that we definitely need to be part of our adventure. So let's just make sure we circle that. And then the pool is another fantastic location. We'll find out some details for that later. Now, one of the keys to Sly Flourish's opinion about these monsters is they need to be relevant. I share that opinion very greatly. So the wolves are only relevant because they're wounded. The spiders, again, I'm not going to refer to the text anymore. It's just whatever's in my head. We're going through this. The spiders are not wounded by these cultists. They're not corrupted per se. So we're scrapping these spiders. No giant spider attack, even though that's a very Feywild, even Lord of the Ringsy fantasy trope thing that it would be nice to include. It just doesn't have to be part of this one shot where combats are going to take a lot of time. We need to keep things moving. We can't bog it down with some giant spiders. Furthermore, even though it takes up probably one full page of the 9 pages this book takes, we're scrapping this entire hag hut thing. The hag doesn't talk to you. The dryads are just worried about their captured friend and then they leave. So I don't know why this is even part of our adventure. It's a diversion. So what do we have as a relevant monster? All we're left with is these wolves. Let's put this in a box as a relevant monster. And I should say, I guess we have our party of berserkers. And, oh duh, this is a great connection I'm coming up with right here. Also at the pool, handwriting, there's werewolves who are really just a great representation of Malar, the Beast Lord, right? That is his whole thing. He's kind of supposed to be one of the original lycanthropes, I think, in Faerun lore. That's how he kind of is in my world. So we're really leaning into that by relying on the wolves, relying on the berserkers, and then at the pool, werewolves, right? We just mash them together. So we have our NPCs, we've reviewed our characters, we've created or chosen some relevant monsters, and some fantastic locations, that being the pool and the Polvarth Plateau. Our scenes are going to be meeting the satyrs. We're going to have a scene where they meet this fantastic tree ant, maybe a scene where we meet the Dewlights. I'm kind of on the fence because in the book, they kind of give the same information, so we have to find a way to make that unique and interesting. And then really our final scene is at the pool where they see these berserkers dumping that stuff, literally corrupting the pool, and then bang, LaRue appears, they fight. LaRue's destroyed by cool lightning, but then it's also reborn as actual LaRue. Hooray. So I need to reorganize this a little bit. Alright, now the very astute dungeon mastering eye might notice that I've created a very, you could say, linear pattern here. And again, that's because we're running a one-shot. We're focusing on our characters and their awesome beginning in this dragon's lair, for which, in a moment, I'll probably look up some cool box text from Describe just to really set the scene. But then, we're going to kind of go right into the box text from Candlekeep Mysteries, where they have these words appear on the page of this book that they're drawn to, of course, because LaRue is right on the cover of it. And then once they're teleported there, I'll give the characters like a second or two to kind of get their bearings, but then our satyrs are going to show up. There's some box text for them too. It has their names. It's very convenient. And that's going to be a fun one because they're drunk, they're reveling, and they just need a way to get home. But there have been these weird, not werewolves, weird wolves in the way. So yeah, our characters could go right to the satyrs and then to the wolves, or they're going to say, forget you drunk satyrs, we're just going to find out what the heck is going on here. In which case, they're going to head into the woods anyway, because it's kind of going to be the only way to go. There's supposed to be mountains all around them in other directions, so they're going to run into these wolves anyway. I'm expecting this to be a pretty fun interaction for Varys, because again, he loves animals, so he's probably going to want to try to help these wolves if they realize they're wounded. And now what I might do, again, because the Dewlights and the tree ant have very similar information, is I might just make this like a one or the other kind of thing. Maybe if the party goes on their own, they'll stumble upon the Dewlights, and if they take the satyrs home, of course, then they're going to end up at Polvarth. In either case, this is where they're going to get information, pretty much just by interacting with either of these NPCs. And we have fantastic box text already in there for this little mushroom town that the Dewlights live in, and for the giant tree, which is already so fantastic and awesome. And I'll probably come up with a cool voice for either the sprite that they talk to or the tree, because that's going to be a fun part of it. But they get this information that the pool is being corrupted. So for this, I might just use that little berserker camp. Oh, but one thing that's important that I totally forgot to mention is here. Ooh, and let's use a fun new color for this. We're going to get a magic item here. because they're supposed to get like a potion of giant strength from the tree, but neither of my characters are strength-based characters, so that's dumb. So instead, they're going to get some magic golden sap that is written to be one of the random encounters they could find in the woods, just like leaking out of a tree, I guess. But they're going to get it from either the fairies or the tree. They're going to learn that it can heal stuff. In any case, it'll be useful for them in this final battle. All right, and back to black here for our remaining to-do list, because guys, it might not look like it, but we're pretty much done. All I need to do, review stats for monsters, and I pretty much never play any monsters as written because I'm always kind of a fan of there being more things and them just being easier to hit because misses are lame. Review our box text, and this is nice and easy because all of our box text is within the same 8 pages of the book. It's going to be really hard to miss anything. And I'm probably forgetting something. And some like final reward. So these guys have already gotten boons from LaRue before, like both of these characters. So it would be kind of weird to just like straight up be like, and here's this blessing of LaRue to you again. So I might go with the item that was in here. So for this, I'll actually look at my page of notes for once during this whole video. The Ring of Shooting Stars, which has a really cool name. And I don't remember what it does off the top of my head. And it's not too important because neither of those characters can identify stuff. So we'll just make it up at the end. And then if they ever play with these characters again, they'll have a Ring of Shooting Stars. Honestly though, I might just be like, make a wish. How cool is that? It's a one-shot. It doesn't matter. All right. And as promised, we are checking out Describe for a Dragon's Lair description because that's where my characters are going to start. It's not in the book. Oh my gosh. They have all these different kinds of dragons. That's really cool. I did not know that. But this was a green? It was like an ancient green dragon. Through the mist of a cascading waterfall, through the punishing curtain of frigid water, you find a complex series of tunnels, branching and crossing in a cavernous maze. Moss covers every surface, and the smell of loamy earth permeates the space. That's really epic, and I guess really what I need is just like a treasure hoard? Treasure pile? Aha. Treasure hoard, look at that. And they have treasure collection and treasure pile. So one of these should be able to help us out. So I could just copy this link or I can bookmark it here and we're done. Thank you to Describe for sponsoring this video. Thank you to all of the Bob World Builder patrons and the new ones like Alex, Bob, Steve, Heather, Austin, Still TK, John, and Mackenzie. That support really helped me get this brand new camera, helped me get this computer a while ago. Thank you to my patrons. Thank you all for liking these videos and subscribing, and keep building.